Vince Dunn.
Ooh, that's
Is
a
is he
spicy
out of
one.
St. Louis?
Well, I mean, Friedman wrote about it in 31 Thoughts, and Saravelli obviously reported that a trade isn't inevitable, but there is interest in him, and there's been interest in him for a while, even before he signed his 1 year extension. Now, apparently, St. Louis is looking for a first rounder. I don't know if that's that. My first impression was that's a steep price,
Yeah. There's
but
there's no term there whatsoever.
right,
Um, I don't know. This is kind of an interesting thing to me because I guess for me personally, I always thought Vince Dunn was part of the long term look of this team. And I don't know what's going on with contract negotiations, but it's a bit of a young guy on that back end that it's someone that I guess like they could afford to lose, but at the same time, like it doesn't look as formidable taking him out.
yeah, Dunn. It's such a weird situation in St. Louis, in my eyes, or in my opinion, because like obviously he hasn't necessarily had that great a start. Craig Berube called him out after their 6-3 loss against the Kings and ended up being a healthy scratch, I think, last night against Las Vegas. You're you're fighting for a spot because what happened is, right, they signed Torrey Krug, they've signed extend Marco Scandella at 3.25 million, and what, now you just have Vince Dunn as your third left defenseman. But no, he's fighting for a position against Carl Gunnarsson, Leafs legend Carl Gunnarsson, and Robert Bertuzzo, and I guess in a way Marco Scandella for that top four spot. That's tough. That is a tough one. Um, and he was taken off the power play and then eventually scratched. Now I know there's teams interested, but for a first round pick,
That's pretty high. And yeah, again, what you said, like St. Louis, what they kind of have been doing with Vince Dunn is not exactly shoring up his market value in a way. I actually kind of feel bad because I had this prediction about the Blues in our season preview that things were not going to gel together the same way they thought they would, and I'm actually feeling bad that it actually is happening to that. It's getting to that point, but it's actually I thought this would happen like mid-season, not at the beginning of the season.
yeah, it's weird. Like they are. Let me just pull up the standings here. It's not been an awful start. They're 4-2-1 in 7 games. It just feels like, they're -5, by the way, and they're
Mm-hmm.
second in the division. So that's a tough one. That's a tough one to look at. That really is a tough one to look at. He's also the second potential left defenseman on the block now, with Victor Mete.
Mm-hmm.
In your opinion, are there any, what teams do you think could be interested in Vince Dunn?
I think a lot of teams. We mentioned them before, the Boston Bruins.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It's just like it's so weird to me when I think about the Bruins of last year when they spent the first round pick to get Andre Kasha, and the Boston Bruins that we have this year. That I think they're a bit more cautious now, where there's really no guarantee with the way their roster is built up that they're going to make the playoffs. So I don't know like what they would give up because again, this is a Bruins team that has been questionable with their picks the last few years of who are they actually selecting. That even if you have like a first or a second round pick kind of guy, it's like, okay, did you reach for this guy? Is he really developing the same way you expected him to be? Who's not named Jack Studnicka?
Right. That Boston was number one on my list as well. Another team who who needs defensemen is Winnipeg, just to shore like, and I know Vince Dunn maybe isn't the best defensively, but I feel like the one thing that they didn't necessarily fully address in the offseason was their defense.
Mhm.
And just to plug Vince Dunn in there, I think there definitely would be an upgrade there, and he could be a guy you could have moving forward on the power play as well. Now, again, like I'm thinking we're 7 games into the year for most teams, I think, with the exception of like Calgary, and then those group of teams in the East who some have played 3 or 4 games. What team is giving up a first round pick right now?
Yeah, I
That
can't imagine that. I actually had a second option about who would actually be able to use Vince Dunn, and
who's
it's a
that?
team that's really pressed against the cap, and it's the New York Islanders because they lost Devon Taves, and then they lost Johnny Boychuk, who wasn't really playing too much anymore, and then they
Right.
don't trust Thomas Hickey anymore, who's on the taxi
Yeah.
squad. So there's been a lot of movement there on their back end. That's someone I think Lamorello could bring in. I just kind of can't think of anything they would really want to give up. Like, I don't think they're gonna give up a first. I don't think they're gonna give up like Oliver Wahlstrom. Um, like all I can think of is like Josh Hosang and a sweetener for them because I'm like St. Louis could do something on that wing side, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that's what this is going to come down to, because Vince Dunn has the potential to be a really good defenseman. Like, he's only 24 years old. But right now, what team is giving up a first round pick for an RFA who's going to be an RFA at the end of the year? Like, I think there's a difference between a trade involving Vince Dunn and a trade involving, let's say, Patrick Laine. Like,
Mhm.
Vince Dunn is good, but like Patrick Laine, I think, is a couple steps up there. Like, that guy will score 30 goals in his sleep if he wanted to.
Yeah. It's just there's a lot of unknowns with this. It's pretty funny. It's ironic that Jack Roslovic went to Columbus. He would have been actually a nice piece going to St. Louis for Vince Dunn, swapping out
Yeah.
the potential RFAs. I know he signed that extension with Columbus. Maybe in his heart, he always wanted to go back to Columbus. So we don't know. Maybe that was that. But
Yeah.
we'll keep looking at that Vince Dunn situation. And honestly, I'm still kind of surprised right now on St. Louis putting him on the block. But we wish him the best as well.
Yeah.